The massive alien ship appeared in Earth's sky without warning. It was beautiful in a way that made human hearts ache. The vessel looked like it was made from liquid silver and starlight, flowing through space with perfect grace. No human ship had ever looked so elegant or moved so smoothly through the void. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the alien craft through the main screen. Her ship looked like a brick compared to the Visitor. The Defiance was all hard angles and gray metal, built for function rather than beauty. Weapon ports dotted its hull like angry eyes, and thick armor plating covered every surface. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Martinez from the communication station. "They're sending a message. It's coming through on all frequencies." Sarah nodded. "Put it on screen." The image that appeared made several crew members gasp. The alien was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to glow with inner light. Its eyes were large and golden, and it wore robes that shifted color like oil on water. When it spoke, its voice was musical and perfect. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Zenthari Empire, speaking for the Galactic Council Supreme Assembly," the alien said. "We bring greetings to the species that calls itself human." Sarah stepped forward. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with your people." The alien's expression didn't change, but something cold entered its golden eyes. "Peace is indeed what we offer, Captain Chen. The Galactic Council has been watching your species for some time. We have seen your wars, your violence, and your tendency toward destruction. After much debate, we have reached a decision about humanity's future." Sarah felt her stomach tighten. This didn't sound like a friendly first contact. "What kind of decision?" "Your species has been classified as Tier 7 aggressive," Veltar continued. "This classification means you pose a threat to galactic peace and stability. The Council has voted unanimously. Humanity must be brought under protective custody for the safety of all civilized species." The bridge fell silent. Sarah could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. "Protective custody?" "You will surrender all military assets immediately," the alien explained. "Your weapons will be destroyed, your warships dismantled. Humanity will be relocated to designated worlds where you can live peacefully under Council supervision. Those who show promise may be educated in civilized ways and eventually earn limited freedom." Sarah's hands clenched into fists. Around her, the bridge crew was getting angry. She could see it in their faces, in the way they held themselves. These aliens had just declared war on humanity while calling it protection. "And if we refuse?" Sarah asked, keeping her voice steady. Veltar tilted its head like a curious bird. "Refusal is not possible, Captain. The Council fleet consists of 300 ships from 12 different species. Each vessel represents thousands of years of technological advancement. Your primitive chemical rockets and nuclear weapons cannot stand against us." The alien paused, and Sarah thought she saw pity in those golden eyes. "We do not wish to cause unnecessary suffering. Submit peacefully, and humanity will be treated well. Force us to use violence, and many of your people will die before the inevitable outcome." Sarah looked around at her crew. These were good people, brave people who had sworn to defend Earth. She saw determination in their faces, not fear. They were ready to fight even against impossible odds. "How long do we have to consider your offer?" she asked. 72 hours, Veltar replied. "After that time, Council forces will begin pacification operations. Choose wisely, Captain Chen. Your decision affects the fate of your entire species." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in heavy silence. Sarah stared at the empty screen for a long moment, then turned to her crew. "Opinions?" she asked. Commander Roberts, her first officer, spoke first. "They're right about the numbers, Captain. 300 ships against our entire fleet is bad odds." "Bad odds never stopped humans before," said Lieutenant Martinez. "My grandfather fought in the Pacific War. He was outnumbered too." Sarah nodded. "What about their technology? How advanced are they, really?" Chief Engineer Patel pulled up a display on his console. "I've been scanning their ship, Captain. It's impressive, but not impossible. Their energy systems are very efficient, much better than ours, but they seem to rely heavily on shields and energy weapons." "Meaning?" meaning they might not be prepared for more direct approaches, Patel said with a slight smile. Their ship is built for elegance, not for taking damage. Sarah thought about this. Humanity had been preparing for possible alien contact for decades. Not the friendly kind that scientists hoped for, but the kind that military planners worried about. Earth's defenses had been built with one assumption: any aliens they met would be more advanced than humans. But advanced didn't always mean better. At war, Lieutenant Martinez, get me a secure channel to Fleet Command, Sarah ordered. Tell them we need to implement Protocol 7 immediately. Martinez looked surprised. Protocol 7 was the last resort plan, designed for fighting enemies with superior technology. It had never been tested in real combat. Are we really going to fight them, Captain? Asked Ensign Park, the youngest member of the bridge crew. Sarah looked at the young woman. Park had joined the service to explore space, not to fight aliens. But she was human, and that meant something. They want to put us in cages, Sarah said simply. They want to decide how we live, where we live, what we're allowed to learn. They're treating us like dangerous animals that need to be controlled. She moved to the center of the bridge where everyone could see her. Maybe we are dangerous. Maybe we are more violent than other species. But that's not their choice to make. Humanity has the right to decide its own future, even if that future includes making mistakes. The crew was nodding now, their faces set, with determination. Besides, Sarah continued with a grim smile, they made one big mistake. They told us exactly how long we have to prepare. Commander Roberts stepped forward. What are your orders, Captain? Sarah looked out at the alien ship still hanging in Earth's sky like a beautiful threat. In 72 hours, the most advanced military force in the galaxy would arrive to end human independence forever. But humans had learned something in their long history of warfare. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Set course for the asteroid belt, she ordered, and send a message to our alien friends. Tell Ambassador Veltar that humanity has considered their generous offer. What should the message say? Martinez asked. Sarah's smile was cold as space. Tell them to come and take them. As the Defiance turned away from Earth, Sarah felt the weight of her species' future on her shoulders. The next 3 days would determine whether humanity would live free or die trying. But one thing was certain. The Galactic Council was about to learn why humans had conquered their own planet through 10,000 years of warfare. They thought they were dealing with primitives. They were about to discover their mistake. Admiral Kethmore stood in the command center of the Council flagship Eternal Dominance, studying the tactical display with growing irritation. The holographic screen showed Earth's solar system in perfect detail, with human ships marked as small, red dots scattered throughout the inner planets. Only 47 vessels in their entire defense fleet, reported his intelligence officer, a insectoid Vraxian with clicking mandibles. Most are stationed around their home world. Primitive fusion drives basic missile systems and crude energy weapons. Kethmore's forearms gestured dismissively. The Vraxian had fought in 17 major campaigns and conquered 6 star systems for the Council. This would be his easiest victory yet. What about their largest ship, he asked, pointing to a red dot moving toward the asteroid belt. The UES. Defiance, Admiral. Length, 800 meters. Mass, approximately 2 million tons. Armament appears to be kinetic weapons and chemical explosives. The intelligence officer paused. Sir, it's moving away from Earth, possibly attempting to flee. Kethmore's mandibles clicked in amusement. Cowards. Though I cannot blame them for recognizing the futility of resistance. Around him, the command center buzzed with activity. The Council's elite task force had arrived right on schedule. 12 ships, each one a masterpiece of galactic engineering. The Zenthari contributed vessels that flowed through space like living things. The crystalline Thekari brought ships that looked carved from precious gems. The energy beings known as the Flux had sent their impossible craft that seemed made of pure light. Each ship represented thousands of years of technological development. Each captain had commanded fleets in the few conflicts that still occurred in the peaceful galaxy. Together, they were unstoppable. Admiral, called his communications officer. Ambassador Veltar is requesting permission to send a final surrender. Demand to the fleeing human vessel. Granted, Kethmore replied, though I suspect we already know their answer. The transmission was brief. Captain Chen's response came back in under a minute, and it was exactly what Kethmore expected from a primitive warrior species. Come and catch us. Predictable, the Admiral said. Set course for the asteroid belt. We'll destroy their flagship first, then return to pacify their homeworld. Signal all ships, maintain formation, and prepare for combat. The Council fleet moved with perfect precision. 12 vessels arranged in a complex three-dimensional pattern that would allow maximum firepower coverage while protecting each ship's weakest points. It was a formation perfected over millennia, used to crush rebellion on dozens of worlds. As they approached the asteroid belt, Kethmore studied the sensor readings. The human ship had positioned itself deep among the floating rocks, using them as cover like a frightened animal hiding in a cave. Clever for a primitive, admitted Captain Silthera of the Zenthari vessel Graceful Death. Her image appeared on Kethmore's command screen, her luminous features showing mild interest. They're trying to use the asteroids to break up our formation. Let them try, Kethmore replied. Our shields can handle asteroid impacts and our sensors can track them through any amount of debris. This only delays the inevitable. The fleet entered the asteroid belt in perfect formation. Kethmore watched with professional satisfaction as his ships weaved between the floating rocks without breaking their attack pattern. Hundreds of asteroids drifted around them, some as small as ground cars, others as large as city blocks. Contact, announced the sensor officer. Human vessel detected at range 50,000 kilometers. They're moving deeper into the belt, sir. Of course they are, Kethmore said. Maintain pursuit. All ships, charge weapons and prepare to fire on my command. The Eternal Dominance pushed deeper into the asteroid field, followed by the other Council vessels. Energy cascaded along their hulls as weapon systems powered up. Shield generators hummed with power. The hunt was about to end, but something was bothering Kethmore. The human ship's movement seemed too deliberate, too planned. It wasn't fleeing in panic. It was leading them somewhere specific. Admiral, called the sensor officer. I'm detecting some unusual readings from several asteroids in this area. Define unusual. Artificial materials, sir. Metal composites that don't match natural asteroid composition. And, sir, some of these rocks appear to be hollow. Kethmore felt his first moment of concern. Hollow how? Before the sensor officer could answer, Captain Silthera's voice crackled over the communication system. Admiral, we're detecting energy signatures from multiple asteroids. They appear to be. Her transmission cut off as the trap was sprung. The asteroids around the Council fleet suddenly split open like deadly flowers. What had appeared to be natural space rocks revealed themselves as camouflaged weapon platforms. Human-built gun emplacements emerged from hidden bays, their crude but functional designs bristling with missile launchers and kinetic weapons. Evasive action, Kethmore shouted, but it was already too late. The humans had turned dozens of asteroids into fortress. Each one had been hollowed out, armed and positioned with mathematical precision. The Council fleet found themselves in the center of a three-dimensional minefield, with weapons pointing at them from every direction. The first barrage hit like a meteor storm. Missiles streamed from the hidden platforms, followed by streams of metal projectiles moving at incredible speeds. The elegant Council formation shattered as ships broke away to avoid the unexpected attack. Damage report. Kethmore barked as his ship shuddered under impact. Forward shields at 60%, his damage control officer reported. Hull breach on deck 7. They're using kinetic impactors, sir. Solid metal moving at extreme velocity. Kethmore stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The humans had anticipated exactly where the Council fleet would enter the asteroid belt. They had prepared this ambush with careful planning and incredible patience. This wasn't the work of primitives. This was the work of experienced military tacticians. How did they know our approach vector? He demanded. The intelligence officers, mandibles clicked nervously. Sir, it's possible they've been observing our standard fleet formations. Every species we've pacified has faced the same tactical approach. The realization hit Kethmore like a physical blow. The humans had been watching previous council operations. They had studied how the Galactic fleet operated, learned their patterns, and prepared accordingly. The prey had been studying the predators. "Sir," called the communications officer. "Captain Silthara's ship is reporting critical damage. Their main drive is offline." On the tactical display, the graceful Death was spinning helplessly, its elegant lines marred by impact craters and venting. Atmosphere. 2 other council ships were also showing damage, their formation completely broken. And through it all, the human ship Defiance moved like a ghost between the asteroids, firing precise salvos at any council vessel that tried to reform the attack pattern. It wasn't running anymore, it was hunting. "All ships withdraw to safe distance," Kethmore ordered, his voice tight with anger and growing respect for his opponents. "Regroup and reassess." As the council fleet pulled back, leaving 3 damaged vessels limping behind them, Kethmore studied the asteroid field with new understanding. The humans had turned their apparent disadvantage into a weapon. They had used their enemies' expectations against them. "Admiral," his tactical officer said quietly, "what are your orders?" Kethmore looked at the field of hidden weapons and the single human ship that had just bloodied the nose of the galaxy's most elite naval force. For the first time in his long career, he wasn't sure of victory. "Signal the fleet," he said finally. "Prepare for extended combat operations. It appears these humans know more about war than we gave them credit for." Captain Sarah Chen watched the council fleet retreat through the asteroid field on her tactical display. 3 of their ships were damaged, trailing atmosphere and debris. But 9 remained operational, and she knew they would be back with a different plan. "Damage report," she called to Commander Roberts. "Minor hull scoring on the port side," he replied. "Shield generators are at full power. All weapon systems operational." Sarah nodded. The first phase had gone exactly as planned. The hidden weapon platforms had caught the aliens by surprise and broken their perfect formation. But she knew the real fight was just beginning. "Chief Patel, how are our asteroid fortresses holding up?" The engineer pulled up a status display. 17 platforms still operational out of 24. "We lost 7 in the exchange, but that's better than expected. The council ships pack serious firepower when they can target properly." Sarah studied the tactical situation. The council fleet had pulled back to the outer edge of the asteroid belt, just out of range of her hidden weapons. They were probably analyzing what had happened, trying to figure out how humans had managed to bloody their noses so badly. "They'll be back," said Lieutenant Martinez, "and they won't fall for the same trick twice." "Good," Sarah replied with a cold smile, "because we're not planning to use the same trick twice." She moved to the navigation console. "Helm, take us to position Delta 7. Nice and slow, make sure they can track us." The Defiance began moving deeper into the asteroid belt, weaving between chunks of rock with practiced ease. Sarah's crew had trained in this environment for months, learning every drift current and gravitational eddy. They knew this battlefield better than anyone. On the long-range sensors, she could see the council fleet beginning to move again. This time they weren't maintaining their pretty formation. The ships spread out in a loose screen, trying to avoid getting trapped in another ambush. "Smart," Sarah admitted. "Their admiral is learning." Admiral Kethmore was indeed learning, but not fast enough. As his ships entered the asteroid field for the second time, he kept his vessels spread out and moving unpredictably. He had ordered continuous scans for hidden weapons and artificial structures. But humans had been fighting in difficult terrain for thousands of years. They understood that the key to victory wasn't always bigger weapons or better technology. Sometimes it was simply knowing the battlefield better than your enemy. The council ships moved carefully between the asteroids, sensors sweeping constantly for threats. They detected the remaining human weapon platforms and gave them wide berths. This time there would be no surprise attacks. "Target acquired," reported the sensor officer aboard the Eternal Dominance. "Human vessel at range 30,000 kilometers. All ships converge on target," Kethmore ordered. "Maintain safe distance from artificial installations." The 9 remaining council ships began closing in on the Defiance from multiple directions. Their approach was cautious but determined. Energy weapons powered up, casting colorful glows across their hulls. Sarah watched them come. "Right on schedule," she murmured. "Martinez, signal the platforms. Execute Phoenix Protocol." "Phoenix Protocol. Acknowledged," Martinez replied, his fingers dancing over his console. "All platforms report ready." The Council fleet was almost in firing position when the remaining asteroid weapon platforms began moving. What Admiral Kethmore had thought were stationary installations suddenly revealed hidden thruster arrays. The hollowed-out asteroids weren't just camouflaged fortresses. They were mobile weapons platforms. "Impossible," breathed the tactical officer aboard the Eternal Dominance. "Asteroids can't maneuver like that." But these could. Human engineers had spent months installing thruster systems inside the asteroid shells, turning chunks of space rock into slow but maneuverable weapons platforms. Now they began converging on the Council fleet from all directions. The elegant, alien ships found themselves caught between the human vessel they had been chasing and a dozen mobile fortresses closing in around them. Energy beams lanced out from the platforms, crude but effective weapons that hammered at the Council ships' shields. "Evasive maneuvers," Kethmore shouted. "All ships, break formation and engage the mobile platforms." But the platforms weren't trying to match the speed and agility of the Council ships. They were doing something else entirely, herding the alien vessels toward predetermined kill zones. Sarah watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. "Now they're starting to understand," she said. "Humans don't fight fair." The Council ships were faster and more agile than the modified asteroids, but they were being forced into increasingly narrow corridors between the floating rocks. Every time they tried to break out into open space, another cluster of mobile platforms would appear to block their path. Captain Silthera, commanding the damaged Graceful Death, found herself trapped between two large asteroids with mobile platforms closing in from behind. Her ship's main drive was still offline, limiting her maneuverability. "This is not possible," she transmitted to Admiral Kethmore. "How are they coordinating so many separate units?" The answer was simple, though the aliens didn't understand it yet. Humans had been fighting coordinated battles for millennia. They understood unit tactics, combined arms operations, and battlefield coordination in ways that the peaceful galactic species had never needed to learn. Each mobile platform was controlled by a small crew of human volunteers who had spent months training for this moment. They communicated through encrypted channels, sharing target information and coordinating their movements with practiced efficiency. "Admiral," called Kethmore's communications officer, "Captain Delmore of the Crystal Harmony is requesting assistance. His ship is taking heavy damage from multiple platforms." Kethmore checked his tactical display. The Crystal Harmony was indeed in trouble, caught in a crossfire between three mobile platforms. But if he moved to assist, his own ship would become exposed to attack from other directions. This was exactly what Sarah had planned. The mobile platforms weren't trying to destroy the Council fleet single-handedly. They were forcing the aliens to make impossible choices, splitting their attention and breaking their cohesion. "All remaining platforms execute final phase," Sarah ordered. The mobile weapon platforms suddenly changed their behavior again. Instead of trying to maintain distance and fire at the Council ships, they began accelerating directly toward their targets. Admiral Kethmore realized what was happening just moments too late. "They're ramming. All ships emergency evasion." The humans had turned their modified asteroids into guided missiles. Each platform was loaded with explosives and equipped with enough thruster power to build up devastating kinetic energy. The volunteer crews had ejected in escape pods, leaving the platforms under automated control. The first impact came as the Crystal Harmony tried to evade a charging platform. The modified asteroid slammed into the elegant alien ship's portside, its explosive payload detonating on contact. The crystal-like hull shattered in a shower of beautiful, deadly fragments. Two more platforms found their targets. The Council ship Void Whisper took a direct hit to its main drive section and went dark, drifting helplessly through the asteroid field. The graceful Zenthari vessel Silver Dream managed a partial evasion, but still took significant damage to its forward sections. In less than 10 minutes, the Council's elite task force had been reduced from 12 ships to 6 operational vessels. 3 more were damaged beyond immediate repair, and 3 had been completely destroyed. Admiral Kethmore stared at his tactical display in stunned silence. How had this happened? How had primitive humans managed to devastate the most advanced naval force in the galaxy? "Sir," his tactical officer said quietly, "the human vessel is approaching. They're signaling us." Sarah Chen appeared on the communication screen, her face calm and professional. Behind her, Kethmore could see the bridge of the human ship, crude by galactic standards but obviously functional and efficient. "Admiral Kethmore," she said, "I believe you wanted to talk." Admiral Kethmore stared at Captain Chen's image on his screen, trying to process what had just happened to his fleet. 6 ships destroyed or disabled in less than half an hour. It should have been impossible. "You fought well, Captain," he said, his voice tight with anger and grudging respect. "But this changes nothing. The Council has hundreds more ships. You cannot win against the entire galaxy." Sarah's expression didn't change. "Maybe not, but we can make it cost more than you're willing to pay." She gestured to someone off-screen, and new tactical information appeared on Kethmore's display. It showed the positions of the 6 remaining Council ships, scattered throughout the asteroid field and damaged to various degrees. "Your ships are built for elegance, Admiral," Sarah continued. "Beautiful energy shields, graceful hull design, sophisticated targeting systems, very impressive against other civilized species who fight by the same rules." Kethmore's mandibles clicked nervously. "What is your point, human?" "My point is that you've never faced an enemy that doesn't care about fighting fair," Sarah replied. "You've never encountered a species that builds their ships to take damage instead of avoiding it." As if to emphasize her words, the Defiance moved closer to the eternal dominance. Kethmore could see the human vessel's battle damage more clearly. Now those scarred armor plating, burn marks from energy weapons, and impact craters from debris, but the ship was still fully functional, its weapons powered and ready. "Your vessel should have been destroyed," he said. "The amount of damage you've taken would cripple one of your ships." "Yes," Sarah agreed. "But we built the Defiance differently. Redundant systems, modular design, reactive armor. We expect to get hurt in a fight, so we prepare for it." Chief Engineer Patel's voice came from somewhere off-screen. "Captain, all systems show green. Structural integrity holding at 87%. Kethmore felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. After everything that had happened, after all the punishment it had taken, the human ship was still at nearly full combat effectiveness. "This is impossible," he muttered. "No, Admiral, this is human engineering," Sarah said. "We don't build things to look pretty. We build them to work when everything goes wrong." The communication line crackled as another voice joined the conversation. Captain Silthara of the damaged Graceful Death appeared on a split screen, her luminous features flickering with system malfunctions. "Admiral, my ship is losing power," she reported. "Main drive offline, weapons at 30%, shields failing. We need immediate assistance." Sarah looked at the alien captain with something that might have been pity. "Your ship is dying because it was never designed to fight something like us. You built it to fight other Council species in formal battles with rules and honor." She paused, then continued in a harder voice. "We built our ships to kill things." As if summoned by her words, the Defiance's main weapon began to power up. A massive spinal cannon ran the length of the ship, its barrel beginning to glow with contained energy. But this wasn't an elegant energy weapon like the Council ships used. "What is that?" Kethmore demanded. "Something simple," Sarah replied. "A very big gun that throws very heavy objects very fast." Chief Patel's voice provided technical details. "Electromagnetic mass driver, Admiral. Fires tungsten rods at 12% of light speed. No fancy energy fields to disrupt, no complex targeting systems to jam. Just pure kinetic energy." The weapon finished charging with a deep vibration that seemed to shake space itself. Sarah looked directly at Admiral Kethmore through the screen. "Your shields are designed to deflect energy weapons and absorb beam attacks," she said. "How do you think they'll handle a telephone pole made of tungsten moving at 36,000 kilometers per second? Kethmore felt his confidence crumble. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. At that velocity, even a small object would hit with the force of a nuclear weapon. His shields might as well be made of paper. "You're bluffing," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Sarah's finger moved toward a control on her armrest. Target, locked on the Eternal Dominance. Firing solution confirmed. The bridge of Kethmore's ship fell silent. Every officer was staring at their displays, watching the human weapon track their position with mechanical precision. Death hung in space between the two vessels, waiting for Sarah's command. "Wait," Kethmore said quickly. "What do you want?" "What I've wanted all along," Sarah replied. "For you to leave our solar system and never come back. That is not possible. The Council has made its decision about humanity." Sarah's smile was cold as vacuum. "Then the Council is about to learn why that was a mistake." She looked away from the screen for a moment, speaking to her crew. "Martinez, open a channel to Fleet Command. Tell them to execute Operation Prometheus." Kethmore didn't like the sound of that. "What is Operation Prometheus?" Instead of answering, Sarah gestured to her tactical officer. New information appeared on the Council ship's sensors, information that made Kethmore's blood turn to ice. Ships were emerging from hiding places throughout the outer solar system. Not just human vessels, but something else entirely. Massive construction platforms, asteroid mining ships, and industrial fabricators that had been converted into weapons of war. "For the past 72 hours, Admiral, humanity has been very busy," Sarah explained. "Every mining ship, every orbital factory, every construction platform in the solar system has been fitted with weapons and armor. We've turned our entire industrial base into a war machine." The tactical display showed dozens of new contacts, all heading toward the asteroid belt. Some were crude conversions of civilian vessels, but others were clearly purpose-built warships that had been hidden in the outer system. "Impossible," Kethmore breathed. "You cannot have built a fleet this size in 3 days." "We didn't build it in 3 days," Sarah corrected. "We've been preparing for this possibility for decades. Every human ship, every orbital platform, every mining operation has been designed with military conversion in mind." She leaned back in her command chair, her expression grimly satisfied. "The Council made one fatal assumption, Admiral. You thought we were a primitive species that had barely reached space. The human fleet was taking formation around the asteroid belt now, surrounding the battered remains of Kethmore's task force. Each vessel bore the scars of hasty conversion, but their weapons were clearly functional. The truth is, we've been a spacefaring civilization for over a century," Sarah continued. "We've had time to spread throughout our solar system, to build infrastructure, to prepare defenses. We just kept quiet about it." A new voice joined the communication, gruff and military, coming from one of the approaching human vessels. "This is Admiral Harrison of the UES Retribution. Council fleet, you are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately." Kethmore looked at his tactical display in despair. 36 human ships surrounded his 6 remaining vessels. Each one might be crude compared to Council technology, but together they represented overwhelming firepower. "How?" he asked Sarah. "How did a species like yours achieve all this without the galaxy noticing?" Sarah's expression softened slightly, showing something that might have been pity. "Because you weren't really looking, Admiral. You saw what you expected to see. Primitives with chemical rockets playing at being a spacefaring species. You never bothered to look deeper." She gestured toward the growing human fleet. Every asteroid mining operation was also a potential weapons platform. Every orbital factory could be converted to military production. Every civilian ship was built with military potential in mind. The realization hit Kethmore like a physical blow. "You've been preparing for war since you reached space." "We've been preparing for war since we crawled out of caves," Sarah replied quietly. "It's what we do, Admiral. It's what makes us human." The human fleet hung in space around the shattered remains of Admiral Kethmore's task force, like predators surrounding wounded prey. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the tactical display with grim satisfaction. 6 Council ships remained operational out of the original 12. The rest were either destroyed or drifting as lifeless hulks among the asteroids. "Admiral Harrison is requesting permission to accept the enemy surrender," reported Lieutenant Martinez. Sarah, shook her head. Not yet, we're not done here. She opened a channel to all ships, both human and alien. When she spoke, her voice carried to every bridge in the battle zone. Admiral Kethmore, you came here to force humanity into slavery, she said. You brought the most advanced fleet in the galaxy to crush what you thought were primitive rebels. I want you to understand exactly what went wrong. On the screen, Kethmore's image flickered with interference from his damaged ship. The proud Vraxian admiral looked older now, his mandibles clicking with stress. Your technology is superior to ours, Sarah continued. Your ships are faster, your weapons more efficient, your shields more effective. In a straight fight between equal numbers, you would have won easily. Several of the council captains were nodding, taking cold comfort in this admission. But you made 3 critical mistakes, Sarah said, holding up her fingers. First, you assumed that superior technology automatically means superior capability. You forgot that the tool is only as good as the person using it. She gestured toward the asteroid field where the battle had taken place. You've had peace for so long that you've forgotten how to really fight. Your captains know fleet maneuvers and formal engagements, but they don't understand dirty fighting, ambush tactics, or asymmetric warfare. Kethmore's voice was bitter when he replied. And humans do? Admiral, we've been at war with something or someone for our entire history, Sarah said simply. We've fought with sticks and stones, with swords and guns, with tanks and aircraft, and now with spaceships. We've learned hard lessons about combat that your species never had to face. She paused, studying the alien commander's expression. Your second mistake was assuming that because we appeared primitive, we actually were primitive. You saw chemical rockets and assumed we didn't understand more advanced propulsion. You saw kinetic weapons and assumed we couldn't build energy guns. Chief Engineer Patel stepped into view on the communication screen. The truth is, Admiral, we chose our technology carefully. Chemical rockets are reliable and hard to jam. Kinetic weapons don't depend on complex energy systems that can be disrupted. We built our military around proven, robust systems instead of elegant, fragile ones. Sarah nodded. In war, simple and reliable beats complex and sophisticated every time. Your ships are technological marvels, but our ships are tools designed for one purpose: winning fights. The communication crackled as another voice joined the conversation. It was Admiral Harrison aboard the Retribution, his weathered face stern with authority. But your biggest mistake, Harrison said, his voice carrying the weight of decades of military experience, and was assuming that Earth was our only stronghold. New signals began appearing on the Council ship's sensors, ships emerging from the outer planets, from asteroid bases, from hidden positions throughout the solar system. But these weren't the converted civilian vessels that had appeared earlier. These were warships. Pure military craft that had been built in secret over the past 50 years, hidden in the depths of space where Council surveys would never find them. Impossible, whispered Captain Silthara. We monitored your industrial capacity. You cannot have built so many ships without us detecting the construction. Admiral Harrison's smile was cold. We built them in pieces, Captain, scattered across 1,000 different facilities throughout the system. A drive section here, weapons platform there, hull plates somewhere else. Then we assembled them in deep space where your sensors couldn't reach. The new fleet was impressive in its brutal functionality. Each ship was a weapon designed for one purpose: destroying anything that threatened humanity. No elegant curves or beautiful energy cascades, just armor, weapons, and the technology needed to deliver both to the right place at the right time. Sarah looked at Admiral Kethmore with something that might have been pity. You came here with 12 ships, Admiral. We're showing you 47, and these are just the ones in this system. The words hung in space like a death sentence. Kethmore's tactical officer was frantically checking sensor readings, but the numbers didn't lie. Humanity had built a fleet that could match any force the Council could assemble, and they had done it right under the galaxy's nose. This changes everything, Kethmore said quietly. Yes, it does, Sarah agreed. The question now is what you're going to tell the Council when you return to them. She leaned forward in her command chair, her expression deadly serious. Because you are going to return, Admiral. All of you. We're not going to destroy your remaining ships or take prisoners. Surprise flickered across the alien faces on the communication screen. Instead, Sarah continued, "You're going to carry a message back to the Galactic Council. You're going to tell them exactly what happened here. How the primitive humans destroyed half of your elite task force. How we turned your advantages against you. How we've been preparing for this confrontation for decades." Admiral Harrison stepped forward. "And you're going to tell them that this was just a demonstration. A small taste of what will happen if they try to force humanity into their cages." Sarah nodded. "We don't want to conquer the galaxy, Admiral Kethmore. We don't want to destroy the Council or overthrow galactic civilization. We just want to be left alone to determine our own future." She gestured toward the human fleet surrounding the Council ships. "But if the galaxy won't allow us that freedom, we're prepared to fight for it. And as you've seen today, we're very good at fighting." The communication fell silent for a long moment. Finally, Admiral Kethmore spoke, his voice heavy with defeat and hard-earned respect. "What are your terms?" he asked. "Simple," Sarah replied. "Humanity will be recognized as a sovereign species with the right to self-determination. No more talks of protective custody or supervision. No more threats of pacification." She paused, then added, "In return, we'll stay in our own solar system for now. We won't interfere with Council operations or threaten galactic peace. But neither will we submit to Council authority." Admiral Harrison stepped forward again. "And Admiral, make sure the Council understands this clearly. Any attempt to force us back into compliance will be met with total resistance. We've shown you what 12 human ships can do to 12 Council ships. Imagine what 1,000 can do." The threat hung in space between the two fleets. Admiral Kethmore looked at his tactical display, studying the positions of the human vessels. Each one was a reminder of how badly he had underestimated his opponents. "I will carry your message to the Council," he said finally, "though I suspect it will not be well received." Sarah's expression softened slightly. "Admiral, I want you to understand something. We don't hate the Council or the galactic community. We might even be willing to join it someday, as equals rather than subjects." She gestured toward Earth, hanging like a blue jewel in the distance. "But humanity has never bowed to anyone. We've fought tyrants and dictators, kings and emperors, anyone who tried to take away our freedom to choose our own path. The Council is just the latest in a long line of those who thought they could force us to submit." Admiral Kethmore considered this for a moment, then asked, "And if the Council decides that humanity is too dangerous to be allowed freedom?" Sarah's smile was cold as space itself. "Then the Council will learn why every species that has ever tried to conquer humanity has regretted it." The communication ended, leaving the battle zone in tense silence. Slowly, carefully, the remaining Council ships began to withdraw from the asteroid belt. Their elegant hulls were scarred with battle damage, their formations broken, their confidence shattered. As they retreated toward the edge of the solar system, Admiral Kethmore composed his report to the Council. It would be the most important document he had ever written, because it would determine whether the galaxy faced peace or the most devastating war in its history. Behind them, the human fleet maintained its positions, weapons powered but not threatening. They had made their point clearly enough. Now it remained to be seen whether the Galactic Council would accept the new reality or choose to escalate the conflict. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the alien ships disappear into the darkness between stars. She had given humanity its best chance for freedom, but she knew the real battle was just beginning. The galaxy was about to learn what humans had always known. Freedom is never given freely. It must always be earned through strength, courage, and the willingness to fight for what you believe in. And humanity had been fighting for freedom since the dawn of time.